flock of seagulls swooping down and just stealing the food. Yeah.
We've all had that, yeah.
Yeah, you had that, right?
Yes, yeah.
My son had that once, and he was only young, and he was running with this sausage in his hand, and I'm yelling him, "Drop the sausage!"
Hello, everyone. I'm Skye, your spiritual guide, and I'm joined by Tanya, your practical philosopher. And our aim today is to offer you a holistic perspective on life, balancing the insights from diverse philosophies and spiritual practices, from personal growth to timeless wisdom. We've got it covered for you all today. So whether you're a seasoned seeker or just starting out in your journey, join us on this adventure, the Apple Pie Club. It's open to all, and we can't wait to have you along for the ride. So grab a slice of apple pie, the recipe's included in the notes, and let's dive into a world of ideas together. And to Tanya today, our wonderful philosopher, again another Greek philosopher, is Epictetus. And I love this quote. We love them all every week, but we are disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens to us. And so this goes really well from the podcast we did last week, actually. Epictetus taught that philosophy is a way of life. You mentioned that some philosophers have that perspective last week, but that it's not just theoretical discipline. And that's what we were talking about last week as well, is that this is not just theory. Our discussions, we hope you will be able to take something away each week and actually apply something to your life to create amazing change for you. So Epictetus believed that individuals are responsible for their own actions, which they can then examine and control through what he called rigorous self-discipline. So I wonder if there's a line between this rigorous self-discipline that Epictetus teaches, to know thyself, or to just go with the flow of the river, as Heraclitus taught us that no man came through the same river twice, because not the same river and it's not the same man. So I think somewhere in between there's this balance. But he was an existentialist who really believed in the power of thoughts and the power of our thoughts to change our lives. Tanya, what do you think about this quote from Epictetus?
It brings to mind this conversation. I was only young. I think I was about 16, and I was working in a part-time job with this guy who had been on his own spiritual journey. And he said to me, "Nobody's responsible for how you feel." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, someone says, if I say to you, I don't like you, I am not responsible for how you feel." I said, "Well, yeah, you are. You've hurt my feelings." He said, "No, I'm not. It's up to you how you take that information. It's all in your control." And I was lucky enough to have that conversation at 16, which kind of made me think about it and really get what he was saying. But I think a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, it's actually, even when you have awareness of that, it's a big lesson to learn, actually, that we are completely 100% responsible for how we think, feel, and behave. And nobody has. I caught myself just the other day saying, "Oh, they made me feel." I thought, no, they didn't. I chose to feel that. I could wallow in it and feel that, or I could say, okay, no, they can't make me feel, in any way. So I choose to feel, as we spoke about in the last episode, happy, at peace, and content. But people don't make us feel in any state. It is our choice.
100%. So if we look at this quote, and we've got two aspects. We are disturbed not by what happens to us. So what does that mean? We look at it, it means external events or circumstances themselves do not disturb or upset us. Yes? Instead, it's our interpretation or perception of those events that cause the disturbance or the distress. So the second bit is we're disturbed by our thoughts of what happens. Therefore, we've really got to start checking in with how are we reacting to it? What are our thoughts and beliefs around that. But imagine, for example, you're sitting, chilling on a beach, and this has happened to me, soaking up the sun, when suddenly I was actually with a girlfriend. We got some fish and chips, and she had a little daughter with her. Got the fish and chips. All of a sudden, we had this flock of seagulls swooping down and just stealing the food. Yeah.
We've all had that, yeah.
Yeah, you had that, right?
Yes, yeah.
My son had that once, and he was only young, and he's running with this sausage in his hand, and I'm yelling him, "Drop the sausage!" He didn't go back to that beach for like 5 years. But anyway, frightened of birds ever since.
Yeah.
So that situation, right? It's, well, what do you do with it? Do you get, you can either get angry or you can laugh it off. So it's not the event, it's how you decide to respond to it. Are you going to be fuming, chase the birds, let them fly away or whatever? Or are you just going to have a laugh and let it go? Because we could all respond in completely different ways.
Yeah. I love the Course in Miracles, because what it does for the first 20 days, at least at the beginning of the course, is that it trains us. In fact, it's quite a strange sentence. You say, you look around the room and you say, that lamp has no meaning. Or this computer has no meaning. Okay, that mirror has no meaning. And you wonder at first, what the heck are you doing? Until you go a little bit further into it and you realize that what she's actually teaching you is that we bring our meaning to everything we see. So if I look at that lamp and say, oh, I love that lamp because it's an old antique lamp and I got it somewhere, and or I love that because somebody gave me that, or whatever it is, we bring meaning to everything that's around us. And exactly the same way, we bring meaning to every situation that's around us as well. We bring our last event. I think we spoke about this in a previous podcast, where this is what road rage is. You cut somebody off in the traffic and they go ballistic. And it's not because you cut them off in the traffic. It's because they brought all of their past events of when somebody made them feel the way they were feeling. So abandoned or rejected or whatever it is when you accidentally cut them off in the traffic. So this is exactly what we actually are reprogramming our minds to do, is realize that we bring meaning to everything we see. Therefore, we can change the meaning. We can change the meaning for everything that we see.
Absolutely. And we can change how we choose to respond.
Mm.
There's a split second that we have a choice.
Yeah.
On, are we going to respond negatively, get stressed about an event which is totally out of our control, it's already happened, or are we going to just choose? I always try and find humor in things. It works for me. Yeah. It doesn't work for everyone, but I always try and laugh things off.
Yeah.
Find the funny side of things when I haven't got any control over it, because I think, well, I might as well have a laugh about it, right? Yeah. It's quite funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's so Stoicism teaches that, right? Stoicism teaches to focus on the mindset and the reactions.
Yeah. Because
you cannot control what's happening out there, but you can 100% control how you respond to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you just think about some situations that you may have been in yourself, changing jobs or, a breakup of a relationship. And so we can identify our own sense of self-worth in that situation, or we can see it for what it really is. And so we train our minds actually as to how we see these situations and these events. And as Epictetus says, through rigorous self-discipline, to not think those negative thoughts about situations and people. And when we actually really focus on this mind training, we actually do live much happier, peaceful, and contented lives. So, Tanya, today, do you have any practical tips for us around this idea that we bring meaning to everything that we experience?
I do. And there are tips, again, that are very much work for me. So we look at the quote one more time. We are disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens. Yeah. And, we use the seagull incident, but you can use it like lots of instances. I think another one is when you're in the airport, you're about to board the plane, and the announcement goes off, the plane has got technical difficulties and will not be taking off. And I never get stressed by that. I think, well, thank God they found the difficulty, because I don't want to get on that plane if it's going to crash.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you do that? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember actually missing my flight. The only time as I say, I've traveled around the world for 7 years teaching English. It took so many flights. And the only time I ever missed a flight, it was Barcelona. And I don't know where I was in my head, but I was watching the wrong line going through the scanning, to get on the plane. And so I'm watching this line and it's not moving and it's not moving and it's not moving. And they said that they called over the loudspeaker, what do you call it? But I didn't hear it. So I eventually get to this line is now moving. I go to the back of the line. I said, okay, so I check in, and they said, no, your flight was that gate and it left 10 minutes ago. So, one of those days. And I thought, well, I can just get extremely upset, or I can just go down to the gate and just say, missed my flight, when's your next one out of here?
I went to the wrong airport in London.
Did you?
Yeah, I thought it was going out of Gatwick, and they said there was no such flight. That went out of Heathrow, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to do a talk in like 5 hours. I've got to get to Luxembourg. How can I get to Luxembourg?
And did you?
I did. I had to then but it cost me a fortune. But there's nothing nothing you can do about it. So, but I always find it interesting watching other people, and they all start complaining in the airport. Yeah, it's inconvenient, but you can change the way you think about a situation. Yeah. And I find that to be able to change your thinking, you have to become more mindful. Yeah. If you're not mindful of your habitual responses, if you're not mindful of what you're saying in your head, if you're not mindful how your thoughts are actually ruining your day,
exactly,
and they don't have to, it's hard to actually change it. So one of my tips is start your day, or any points in the day, with a mindfulness meditation. Where you sit quietly, you focus on your breath, you observe your own thoughts and your emotions that arise, and you don't judge them and you let them go. Because by practicing mindfulness meditation, you become more mindful. And when you become more mindful, you're able to intervene a thought process that is only going to make your day worse. It's already, if you missed a flight, it's already bad. You don't need to make it worse and carry on and on and on.
It's already happened, exactly. But I love this idea too that, by getting upset, we've assumed that we know everything about life, okay? And we don't. I love this phrase that I hear someone say, it's a gift in strange wrapping paper. We don't know that there's a gift in that. It's in strange wrapping paper. It doesn't look great, okay? But it could be a gift for us, whether it's a lesson we have to learn, or whether it's something that's preventing something else happen. We've all heard stories like that. We don't know. And so, again, the Course in Miracles says we either choose a grievance or we choose a miracle. So when we choose the grievance, it blocks the miracle, because our energy is now so on that low vibrational frequency of anger or guilt or shame or whatever it is we're feeling. And so we block the miracle. And so I really love this quote, is that if we can remind ourselves that, yes, what's just happened to us may not be what we would choose, but perhaps it's a gift in strange wrapping paper. Perhaps there's a lesson that I have to learn. So I'll choose not to be grieved. I will choose the miracle. And I've noticed that every single time I actually make the decision to do that, well, first of all, you have a much better day anyway, as you've just said, because for the next few hours you could be so wrapped up in the negativity of it all, instead of just saying, okay, it is what it is. You just enjoy your day better when you choose the miracle instead of the grievance. And secondly, as you said, it's not going to change it anyway.
No, it's not. Just put a sprinkle of humor in there and start again.
Yeah.
So, Skye, what's your practical tip you'd
Okay.
like to share with the listeners?
Yeah. So my practical tip is the cognitive reframing technique, as we challenge those negative interpretations. And I know I've spoken about this before in one of our episodes, that the old way we used to reprogram was NLP, was the neuro linguistics programming. We'd pretty much say the opposite. So if we're not feeling great, we say, oh, I'm feeling great. Okay. If we're not feeling safe, I am feeling safe. If we don't feel seen, well, everybody sees me. Okay. But in fact, one of the big examples of this is the I'm enough movement. And it was a wonderful movement and a wonderful idea, but for women who didn't feel enough. And so Marissa Peer started the I'm Enough movement. And the reality is, though, today, 80% of women still don't feel enough. And that's because the body knows. The body and the mind knows. We can't just say, oh, I'm safe. I'm seen. Everybody sees me. So what we have to do is create a deeper truth growth statement, something that we can really grow into and something that we can really, really believe. And so instead of saying, everybody sees me, I have the power to presence myself. I have the ability to feel safe and follow my intuition so that I know when situations are safe for me and when they are not. I have the ability to create value in my life. Not I'm wealthy, I have lots of money. Even though I do want to remind people of the Emil Cole statement from a previous podcast, every second of every minute of every hour of every day, I'm getting wealthier and wealthier. Okay, that can work. But definitely, in fact, that is a growth statement anyway. You're growing into that. So in terms of, think about the negative thought that you may have encountered from the experience. And instead of just thinking, okay, now it's NLP, I've got to reframe it, what is the deeper truth growth statement that you could speak over your life and grow into? I have the power to presence myself. I heard somebody say the other day, every time I talk about, what I need, people get upset. Well, that's because they haven't learned the skill of asking people for what they need. So you could use a statement like that. I have the power to and the skill to ask people for what I need when I need it in a way that doesn't alienate me. So that's my tip: is to not literally just reframe. But to think really carefully about what this deeper truth growth statement is. We're growing into becoming other human beings, different human beings, actually, as we do this, as we identify these thoughts that come into our mind and how we want to change them.
I love that advice. All right, so you've got 2 tips there. And again, guys, we've got everything in the notes, and we also run training sessions on every single topic that we run. So all you've got to do is click on the link and it takes you through to the to the calendar and when we're running events, so you can jump on whatever subject that you think that you need help in. But ultimately, the 2 tips that we've discussed are going to help with the statement by Epictetus. We are disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens. And you've got 2 beautiful tips there to help you master that quote and live a happier, more fulfilled life.
And I think to finish, Tanya, is a real reminder to have self-compassion, not to beat ourselves up when we get it wrong, because we do, okay? We're learning and we're growing. And also, whilst we're learning, sometimes you'll get it right and sometimes you won't, but really to have practice self-compassion, because first of all, you're in a group, a percentage of people who are even aware, and you're wanting to practice. And so as I mentioned, this idea of Epictetus, of this rigorous self-discipline. So yeah, we can have this rigorous self-discipline to change and transform into practice, but also apply that with a whole heap of self-compassion.
Don't give in.
Don't give in. Yeah. It works out.
Don't give in.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about illnesses and disease in our bodies. We've been talking about DNA and how we create meaning. We give meaning to everything that we see. So illnesses and disease, and actually all the other outer conditions that we experience, they require energy for their survival. So it requires energy for that condition to remain in our body. It requires our energy for that condition to remain externally outside of us. So these conditions, they quickly get out of control and they start to run the show themselves if they're not attended with our energy. So attending to your energy helps to clean out your closet, so to speak, to clean out your body, to clean out your environment, what's actually going on in your environment. In fact, energy healers don't actually heal. What they do is they simply redirect the energy in your body, and the body heals itself. You see, our bodies vibrate energetically at a particular frequency. And I know we've shown the map of human consciousness before, the Dr. David Hawkins map of human consciousness, which I absolutely love. And when we are operating on shame and guilt, we're operating on the lowest vibrational frequency, 20 and 30. And it just requires us to be willing to move out of that, to move into what Dr. David Hawkins calls power rather than force, where actually that energy is, we talked about it in one of our podcasts, of flowing with the river rather than hitting this obstacle all the time. So when our vibration is lowered, we lower our frequency. And the more condensed our energy becomes, the more we feel this negative emotion and this negative energy. So overall, the more condensed our energy becomes, the heavier we feel emotionally, the weightier we perceive our problems. And so lower vibrational frequencies, lower vibrations raise our negative emotions. And our body addicts itself to the state of this negative energy, these negative emotions. And I really went through years of rewiring my brain, working with my body to clear the addiction to sadness. I grew up in an environment where sadness became my situation normal. And so sadness released this chemical and my body became addicted to the sadness. And so I caused situations in my life that enabled me to feel sadness so that my body could get that chemical and feed that addiction. And I spoke about this either in this podcast earlier or in the previous one, where I actually used to talk to myself and say, no, body, I'm not giving you this chemical of sadness. We're choosing another chemical. So when our bodies addict themselves to this negative energy, it causes pain and discomfort in the physical body. But as I said, it becomes our situation normal. We don't even really know it. So this darker energy, we need it actually in order to survive. That's what we've trained our bodies. Just like an alcoholic needs alcohol or drugs, a drug addict needs drugs, we need that chemical in order to survive. And so we're using our energy to produce that chemical. Our existing circumstances are often chaotic, and traumatic. And so we become tired easier because we're using all this energy to control our circumstances. So by raising our frequency to a higher order, we will feel lighter in our physical and our emotional state. And as we raise our energy, we go through this period of discomfort as our body rehabilitates. Remember, just as someone has to get the chemical of a particular drug or alcohol out of their system, so we have to get that particular chemical that produces that feeling, that negative feeling, whether it's anxiety or sadness, or all of those negative emotions. So all forms of rehabilitation come with discomfort. But once we overcome this unpleasantness, we begin to enjoy a new, renewed sense of clarity and inner peace, happiness that we've been talking about, and personal power. I see energy and power are used interchangeably these days because we're very aware that when we give away our energy, we're giving away our power, we're losing our power. So when we get more energy on these vibrational frequencies, we're reclaiming our power, the ability to respond with love and be confident in life. So emotions based on our perceptions, which lead to thoughts, are energies. And an emotion is a feeling. So this feeling is felt when this chemical is released somewhere in the body. And when we feel good, our bodies will have produced and released a feel-good chemical. And when we feel bad, the opposite applies. Our bodies have released a negative chemical. So chemicals are derived from energy. In fact, everything in the universe is derived from energy. If negative energies are not expressed, in other words, if they're not expressed through emotions in motion, and there's various ways that this can be done. There are various positive ways that this can be done. Obviously, there are negative ways we express energy as well. Then these energies then become stuck in our body, and they cause a toxic buildup of emotional chemicals and resulting in this negative energy and this negative feeling. Stress and trauma then strive in the shape of what we call inherited cellular memory. The cells remember the stress. The cells remember the trauma. The cells remember the feeling and the emotion. It's when the cells have become addicted to this chemical of anxiety, this chemical of stress, this chemical of fight, flight, or freeze, this chemical of anger. So just like a drug addict becomes addicted to the chemical contained in the drug, so we actually become addicted to that feeling that our body is remembering when it produced that chemical activation and that same feeling. So feelings really are a reflection of our experiences, and these experiences can be actual events or our thoughts, how we perceive, how we bring meaning to an event that's taking place in our world. And we have a second or two, actually some people say we have up to 17 seconds to change our thinking, to say, okay, I recognize this. Remember, awareness is the first step. So I recognize this. And how I would normally behave in this situation, I'd go into sadness, I'd go into victim, I'd feel very sorry for myself, or I'd get really angry, I'd lash out, whatever it is. But awareness is the first step. And then when we can tell ourselves, I'm not going to behave like that, and we can talk to our body and say, I know you're wanting this chemical, but I'm not going to give it to you, because we're actually training ourselves, my body, to become addicted to a happier chemical of joy and peace. So cellular memory of negative perceptions produce these negative chemicals to reinforce that chemical addiction to our negative cycle. And it causes our energy centers to become unbalanced. Energy centers, of course, are our chakras. And so to get to the cause of your biological or psychological difficulties, the answer is to rebalance or balance your energy centers and bring them back into alignment with nature. And as I've mentioned, there's many ways you can do this. There's so many amazing, wonderful energy healers out there that you pick the one that works for you. I work with solfeggio frequencies. And so I'm going to talk about this, that snowflakes are formed, the faces of flowers take their shape because they're responding to some sound in nature. Crystals, we all know about that experiment. When you speak positively to crystals, they form this beautiful crystal, to water as it's freezing. They form these beautiful crystals. And when negative words were spoken over these crystals, as these water, as they were forming crystals, they were deformed. So crystals, plants, human beings are music that has taken a visible form. And our bodies are 60% water. So we must pay attention to what we're thinking and saying to ourselves. So when our bodies become stressed or ill or diseased, they're no longer producing nature's sound waves or the sound wave that nature intended, because there are certain frequencies for each energy center. And so when we're not aligned in those frequencies, we are not in order in our systems and our organs with those sound waves. So these ill and diseased organs or tissues, they're no longer vibrating at the frequency that places them at their optimal resonant frequency. So I'm going to talk quickly about the frequencies and which frequencies help or support in different ways. So solfeggio frequency 174, it helps to relieve pain and stress. And I work with people with on a meditation level with these frequencies, but you can also find these frequencies, you can YouTube these frequencies and just listen to them throughout your day. There is a great benefit to adding meditation, breathing, and these frequencies together. So frequency 285 is the next chakra. By the way, that was the root chakra, 174. Frequency 285 is the sacral chakra. It helps to repair your tissues and your organs. And it's where we feel and we have our sense of intimacy and belonging, okay? Connection with others. So solfeggio frequency 396, it helps to free us from guilt and shame and fear. That's our solar plexus, and that's where we connect with our source. So operating those lower vibrational frequencies of guilt and shame and fear, when we move them up and we connect just through being willing, we move into love and joy and peace and into what was called enlightenment, which is 700 plus on the scale of map of human consciousness, where we're connecting with our source. Solfeggio frequency 417 is the heart chakra, and it helps us through times of change mostly. 639 restores relationships. 741 raises our awareness to find and assist in self-expression. And 852 reconnects with our spiritual order, that's our third eye. And 963 is the crown chakra, opens the chamber to bring us back into oneness in unity with our source. So as I mentioned, there's many ways to work with your energy levels, to bring them back into alignment, which helps us to be free from the patterns of addiction, the thought patterns. I'm alone, I'm invisible, I'm not enough, I'm worthless. All of those thought patterns, when you combine them and work with them with frequencies as well, we get great success. So if you're wanting to receive extra support, my contact details are in the comments below. But I also want to remind you that Tanya and I will be running a 1-hour workshop in May, where we'll be discussing many of these as part of this workshop. So you can find information about attending that workshop as well. I look forward to seeing you at our next podcast.